Yes. All right. I'm going to call the meeting of the Historic Resources Board to order today. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And can we have roll call, please?
Ernest Franco is absent. Lorraine Pope. Here. David Medeiros is absent. Eric Redstock.
Here.
Danny DeBear.
Here.
Thank you.
We are meeting, this is a special meeting tonight because of last night's conflict with the elections, so this is why we're meeting tonight. And before I begin the meeting, I'd just like to honor our longtime resident, Richard Ponce. He was born here, he lived here till his passing last week at the age of 77. He was a real San Juan treasure. Came to so many meetings, served on so many boards. He was a best example of community service that you'll find, and we're going to miss him. Every time we talk about curbs and gutters, I'm going to think about Richard. I'll miss him in the audience. I have missed him the past few meetings. And on my walk today, we went by the cemetery, and Richard is near his parents in a very simple plot. His parents had a more formal, elaborate plot, but Richard has a beautiful, just a wooden cross with, looks like RP stamped or carved into it. I don't know if it's temporary or not, but it seemed like Richard, so. Do you want to say anything about?
No, it's just that he'll be missed. I mean, I haven't been in San Juan all that long, and he was definitely someone who was willing to listen, willing to give you your opinion without shoving it in your face. A wealth of knowledge for the city. I mean, when I heard the news, I was out of town, and I was very saddened by it. Yeah, this town has certainly lost somebody who cared a great deal for the town. So,
yeah, it was nice to see city manager there.
Oh yes, yeah, I know Richard ever since high school.
Yeah.
He was a year ahead of me in school there, and he just was a go-getter and volunteered in almost everything.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's a true community spirit guy. He just roll up the sleeves and get involved in almost everything.
The last time I saw him was when he was putting up the Christmas tree at the orchard, and then shortly thereafter, he was in the hospital and didn't come home till close to the end. So anyway, we'll miss Richard. We wish his family the best.
absolutely.
Are there any public comments from anyone in the audience? Public comments on items not on the agenda?
Nope, you can't take those tonight.
Oh, it's the special meeting?
Agenda.
Okay, sorry. Never mind. Okay. Do we have any informal project reviews? None? Okay. We have a public hearing notice to consider recommending to the Planning Commission approval of a site and design review for the re-roofing of the old adobe at 101 3rd Street, and the applicant is Emily Renzel. Staff?
Okay, so Ms. Renzel met with Tony from Slayton & Son Roofing, and Tony brought through some plans and sat down with me and Roger and expressed some concerns with the re-roofing of that adobe, and he basically mentioned that he was going to reinforce the inside of the attic to reinforce the roof, because he said that he wouldn't trust the stability of the roof to put his guys on there to complete the work. So on the back of the staff report, there's a kind of somewhat of a diagram of what he plans to do to reinforce the roof. As far as the type of roof materials, he mentioned that the redwood shingles were not going to be able to get the fighter grading to get it approved, just because it's redwood and it's a potential to catch fire. So they're going to go with the shakes that I believe Emily had proposed to us originally last time when she came through for the informal project review. So other than that, I think everything's going to be pretty much the same, and Ms. Renzel's in the audience if you guys have any questions.
Okay.
Need help?
This is the Shenandoah, which is what I want to use on the back.
Which one, the second from the right?
Well, ignore these little ones here. It's
Oh.
all this.
Okay.
I'm Emily Renzel, I'm the owner of Casa de Anza. As Rudy has told you, there are obstacles to using redwood. In order to get fire, you have to have it fire retardant put on it, and there's nobody who does that anymore apparently. And then you have to put an underlayment to make it a Class A or B or C,
Class A
whichever
rating.
the one that's required. It's just not possible to do it because we can't get past the first step
Okay.
of getting it fire treated. Cedar shakes can be gotten fire treated, and for all intents and purposes, I don't think that the average person would note the difference between redwood and cedar, although redwood is what originally was on, and redwood is actually considered Class
I know.
2 or something for siding, but not for roofs. So anyway, so I'm sort of back to cedar shakes for the front of the building, and they will look very much like the shake roof on the Rose's house. That would be the same kind of configuration with 10 inches exposed and a certain thickness to give a little texture to the roof as seen from the street. And in the back, where we have a lower slope, I would use this. Don't ignore this little line here. It's not part of it, but the lower part of that sample. I Slayton Roofing bid it with both this one and this one. This one's a little cheaper. It's not quite as textured. Doesn't have as much definition. But I think since I'm putting shakes on the front, I'd rather put the one with a little more definition on the back to kind of tie it together. And then the third thing I need not approval for, but I need your support for, is preservation of the understory of the awning over the sidewalk. It's tongue and groove beadboard sort of material that has been up there a while, and the paint has faded, and there's just a wonderful patina on it, and that's the way most people experience the approach to my casa. And if I have to remove boards here and there, even if it's a few, it's going to be very difficult to achieve that same patina with the new boards. So I'm asking your support for using the historic building code to do whatever is possible in alternative ways to meet the code and still preserve that patina. So those are what I'm asking for.
Okay. The 10-inch overlap, did you say overlap?
It's exposure.
Exposure is what projects.
That's what's at Rose's house. It's what's typical on a shake.
Okay.
I think the shakes are either 16 or 20 inches long, and there's 10 inches exposed on each course. And they'll put various levels. Roger, you're probably more expert on this than I am, and the roofer certainly is, but there's some sort of underlayment that goes under them besides normal felt, and that helps with fire protection. And of course they're going to put in proper eyebrow vents and things like that probably in the back where the roof is more amenable to it, but to do the proper ventilating, and all of those will be painted to match the roof, which they aren't right now. They're just galvanized sort of.
Have you already started to do anything on the back? It looks like
No,
it's a clean, it's not an underlayment.
No, that's what Pepe put on the roll roofing,
Okay.
orange
It's all
roll
one
roofing.
color though. Yeah.
That was put on in around 1998, I think.
Okay.
And it served well because that building was leaking badly. So it has at least achieved the purpose of keeping water out. But the only thing I've done on the back is add a gutter and downspouts. So
How about the tank house? Does that need any?
I re-roofed that, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I don't know if you were city manager when I did that.
2 years ago, yeah.
Well, I remodeled the interior of it 2 years ago, but I re-roofed it with a permit. And it's also wood shingle, but fire rated. And it's a very small structure. It's only, I think, 11 by 11. So.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
No, I think we,
Is there anyone from the audience who has any questions or comments about the roofing of the Deanne's adobe? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
I did go to a workshop on the California Historic Building Code. It was in 2014. It was actually the day my first grandson was born. But the purpose of the California Historic Building Code is to retain enough flexibility to allow restoration of a historic feature while still retaining its historic integrity. So it gives a little more allowance, a little more wiggle room to correct the problem, but to do so in a way that doesn't compromise the historic integrity of the property. So I would support following the Historic Building Code to help you correct the problem. Anyone else?
No, I mean, we covered a lot of items last time as well in the informal review, and I believe the applicant is doing her best to keep the historic and safety. There's a definite.
Yeah, we must commend her for doing the homework and trying to retain that original architecture.
Yeah, she's a
Like
good
you said,
steward.
You need a certain amount of flexibility
Sure.
to achieve it, and the intent is to replicate it so that it does retain its historic nature.
So there's no resolution here, but do we?
No, it's in the planning
So
commission.
okay,
section.
so we're just good to go.
Do we have to move to recommend to planning, or does it go straight to planning?
It seems like we need to recommend the
Yeah, I
planning.
think we should.
Recommended
Yeah.
by the commission.
Okay.
I move that we recommend to the Planning Commission to approve the re-roof of the old adobe at 101 3rd Street.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
Board Member Franco is absent. Board Member Koch.
Yes.
Board Member Maderas is absent. Board Member Gretasoff.
Aye.
Chairman Gubert.
Aye.
With 3 members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3-0-0-2.
Okay. Thank you. The next item is an action. We have 2 action items: affidavit of posting agenda and affidavit of posting and mailing public hearing notice.
I move that we. What is it? It's not approve, is it? What
Yeah.
would the motion? Is it move that we
Move to
approve the
approve.
affidavit of postings?
You can.
Yeah, you probably do them together.
Yeah, do them together.
Both items 5A and 5B.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Board Member Franco is absent. Board Member Koch.
Aye.
Board Member Maderas is absent. Board Member Gretasoff.
Aye.
Chairman Gubert.
Aye.
With 3 members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3-0-0-2.
Okay. Moving on to discussion, we have 2 items. The first item is the orchard lot update. Staff.
Yeah, we've met with Senator Yellow's assistant there, and things are progressing with the state. We're trying to get a meeting to join with the state officials. They want to find out how much the city of San Juan is willing to step up and provide the services for the orchard lot. And so we're developing some criteria on that. So we're meeting with them, show them how we would like to use it, utilize it, and still give the state protection for their facilities in the back. So it's an ongoing process, and it looks very favorable.
Good.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. The next item is adopting historic color palette. This is something that I had brought up because it seems that if the community wants to do a paint project, it shouldn't be so vague and nebulous. And what I was hoping is that we might adopt a color palette, just something like this, where a homeowner or business owner could say, well, I like this scheme. You just go to the city and get it approved without, well, will they have to come back to us? It would just simplify the process. Next month, we're going to have somebody from Hollister Paint come and talk to us, so we're actually going to wait till next month to discuss.
There is a brochure out there of a three-color palette of historical.
Yeah.
And
Well, this one is historic, and it actually covers different periods of time, like the arts and crafts. So, anyway, we'll bring this back probably next month, when we can get somebody from Hollister Paint to talk to us.
and then we can have a full board so that we
Yeah,
can,
we'll have a full board. We just want to simplify the process for people, so it's not so it doesn't impede their progress. Okay, moving on to comments from the Historic Resources Board. Do you have any comments? Okay. I just have one comment. The Historical Society is having a meeting this coming Saturday. It's more of a workshop at the Happy Rooster from 9 to 11. We often will have speakers, but this time we're just going to have kind of a roundtable discussion to find out where we're going, how we're going to get there, what our goals are, and what we think the public really wants from us and how we can help. So that's all I have. City Manager?
hey, got anything, Rosemary?
No. Okay. Planner? No. Neither. Okay. Then I'll adjourn this meeting of the Historic Resources Board. And now we're moving into the Planning Commission. And we begin. Do we have to do roll call again? Okay. Again, we're not going to have public comment. We do have an informal project review, and this is the time when a potential or future project applicant may present his project to the Commission for the purpose of gaining information as preliminary feedback only. So no formal application is required and no action will be taken. So tonight we have a project review on the village at San Juan Bautista, and the applicant is Bill Coffey. So will we begin with staff or the applicant?
I think we'd invite Mr. Coffey up, and there we've distributed his packet that he gave us, and he's called it The Village, and it outlines a scenario of how this can fit into the city of San Juan Bautista and its housing element, and providing affordable housing to a number of residents in the city.
Okay, Mr. Coffey, would you like to?
Hard to say.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bill Coffey, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to come before you this evening. You have before you a packet which describes a conceptual idea for a manufactured home park on property situated and identified in your packet, 18-acre parcel along the old San Juan Hollister Road. By way of background, I am a licensed real estate broker. I'm a licensed manufactured home dealer. I'm a former general contractor. I have been in the manufacturing industry for some 20-some odd years. I have run manufactured home plants. I have been involved in manufactured home parks and have supplied countless homes through these endeavors. We looked at San Juan Bautista because this is our business. And there are certain guidelines that we follow in the initial analysis as to whether or not there is a site that might suit our concept of what a manufactured home park should be. And this is a concept that has evolved over the years over countless number of parks. San Juan Bautista virtually met a check on every box we have. It is bordered by a highly trafficked freeway highway system that joins a number of heavy employment centers in the area, starting up to San Jose, and from San Juan to San Jose is within the acceptable commute distance, which is established by the National Transportation Safety Board, I believe. It also is accessible to Los Banos, and we know a number of subcontractors and tradesmen who commute from Los Banos into Salinas and Monterey on a daily basis. So it's within commute distance to Los Banos. And it's obvious it is easy to commute distance to Salinas and Monterey. So that is an attention getter for us. Secondly, the site itself is majestic. And it embodies all the physical attributes we look for in a site. So that when we conceive the layout, we look for visual paths, we look for surrounding serenity or absence of serenity, things of that nature. And under that examination, the site, we believe, was almost ideally suited. Then we look at the potential for acceptance of what we are trying to do. Housing is our business. And we believe our product, our concept, offers one of the very best solutions to what we like to refer to as affordable housing. If we could be successful in granting the necessary approvals and acceptance by the city and get this built, our target price, as I mentioned in the little brochure, would be, by any description, considered an affordable housing concept. The structures themselves, and I put a few pictures in there, but that is not all the type of house or exteriors you can see in a manufactured home park. The interiors are fairly typical. Contrary to what a lot of people think about a manufactured homes, the interiors are in many ways superior to the custom homes which we've built over the years. Standard features like granite countertops, low E windows, they're standard in these homes. The lot sizes which we have planned are 4,000 square feet, which would give to each home a sizable side yard, 2 sizable side yards, and a sizable rear yard. So you would not have a sense of this. And then the layout, taking advantage of our views of our surrounding hills, would, in my opinion, be one of the best designed parks I've ever been associated with. We believe it would satisfy an identified need for housing. I have worked and talked with planning commissioners and mayors in surrounding cities, Lane Long and Marina, Joe Gunther and Salinas. I've talked to Viggy, Mayor Hollister, and they all believe that our concept is a true answer to the municipal housing needs of their cities. And we believe that it is. So that is why we are here. That's what brings us here this evening. We would like to have you review our concept. What you see before you does not represent the final design, because there are some physical issues with the property which must be addressed. We are aware of the fault line, and our design accommodates that fault line by the setbacks, as you see on the tentative map which I supplied to you. There are obviously some drainage issues out there which must be accommodated. The land itself is in a floodplain. Fortunately for our houses, the subfloor is never less than 20 inches to grade anyway. So our houses, as a standard feature, are above any floodplain requirements, which makes them adaptable to a lot of land that you could not otherwise use for housing. It is our understanding that the infrastructure that we need, water, sewer, natural gas, electricity, cable television, are all present. So that makes our job a whole lot easier. So in summary, the things that we look for in order to build a community that has lasting value, that gives people a quality of life which we want to reflect in our endeavors, are present here. And we, again, seek your counsel. We invite your questions. And we hope that you will give us a review. There will be some encouragement. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Is this property currently in the city or is it in the county?
It's in the city.
It is in the city.
Yeah. We annexed this together with the 12.5 acres
directly to the east of it, and that was part of the three parcels, and we annexed our well number 3 at the same time.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do. I don't have any issue with manufactured homes, so I know some people have a stigma against manufactured homes. I do not. Are these going to be on temporary or permanent foundation?
Perimeter concrete foundations.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner. And that enhances the financing availability. So the mortgage for the home buyers is plentiful and at very attractive rates.
It effectively becomes just a home on a foundation as opposed to a non-home. I mean, I know that it's like minimum 20% down if it's on a temporary foundation, right? Something along those lines.
It varies,
Yeah.
Commissioner. It's all over the spectrum. But our design is designed to be a permanent home.
Right.
And thus the foundation meets the FHA requirements for permanent foundation for manufactured homes. Now, the sites themselves will be leased. At some point in time, that may change, but right now we propose a lease site. The homes can be purchased with chattel mortgages, and they can be government-insured mortgages. So they will have a mortgage on the home and a lease on the site.
Typically milled in a 4,000 square foot lot, what is the typical size of the manufacturing home? Is it 1,500 to 1,800 or?
Approximately 1,400 to 1,500 is typical. They could go down as far as, there won't be anything less than 1,000 square feet here.
Yeah.
That's something that we would not consider acceptable. And they could be as large as, on a single lot, 1,640 square feet. There are some occasions where people will take 2 parcels and have an 8,000 square foot parcel and be surprised with the house they would put on it. Go down to Laguna Beach in Southern California where they sell for $1.5 million, you can imagine what that house looks like.
Is there going to be any age restrictions or profile notes?
Do they have garages?
There will be parking on both sides of the home. One side of the home will be covered
Like
carports. The other side will be open for additional parking, or it could be a yard. Option of the owner and city requirements. But we'll design these in such a way that there be parking, sufficient parking for 2 cars plus 1 guest per car.
Tandem. Tandem or side by side?
The 2 cars will be tandem on one side, and the other car will be standalone on the other side. There will also be an abundance of guest parking designed into the park, as well as places for SUV storage. And that's
Where is your home base? Where are you located?
Monterey.
Okay. So
I happen to live in Hollister.
where might we see some examples of these?
Well, the only one, frankly, that's close by that even gets close to our standards, in my opinion, would be on 156 off Prunedale, going just before you get to Castroville, on the right-hand side. Gosh, I just drew a blank on its name. I know it like I know my own. It's the only manufactured home park along the highway between Prunedale and Castroville. And it's just before you get into Castroville, on the right. It's a sign.
I've seen
You
it.
probably passed it a dozen times.
Yeah.
But again, that park has some age on it. And from that design, developers in this industry have learned about design. And each time we do this, we learn a great deal more that adds to the quality of life. And one thing we've learned over the years is space. So typically, there will be a minimum of 26 feet between each house as far as the side yards are concerned. As opposed to the regular subdivision, if you go in a house or anywhere else, and see a subdivision of $500,000 and $600,000 houses, you see 5-foot side yard like up against the 5-foot side yard, so those houses are 10 feet apart. Our houses would be 26 feet apart.
How many houses are you proposing?
The layout right now is approximately 100 spaces. That may not be realized once we start addressing the physical issues of the site to make sure that we've got the proper setbacks off of the fault zone. Right now, we understand from Mr. Grimsley that there has to be a 200-foot wide swath across the property to accommodate that fault zone. In our parks, when we see something like this, we then have two really separate infrastructure systems because we won't cross fault lines with water lines, sewer lines, or power lines because we don't want to chance one of these and the park is so each side of that fault line will have a special design independent infrastructure system, if you will, for the utility systems.
Yeah, it looks like there's also a creek that runs through the corner of the property.
There is a creek on the
west side
boundary, yes
Right.
ma'am, and that has a defined distance and setback.
Okay.
And
And so
that's
this
fine.
map reflects that, or you would adjust the
Yes
map
ma'am,
to
the map
reflect
reflects that.
Okay.
But again, that's very tentative, and we won't know precisely until you get our engineers and surveyors out there. Because we're working off plot maps right now that are a matter of record, and we're taking those dimensions off the plot maps.
And there would be a park? I
Yes,
see
ma'am,
there's a
several.
picture, but I don't see it on the map.
That's just a typical, but on the map, you will see areas designated as parks, open space. There should be parking. You probably have to look carefully, but it's on there. No, there'll be a number of parks
Landscape mall?
scattered throughout the development.
But those would be for the residents of the park itself.
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
don't know that you would forbid people from coming into those parks. I haven't thought about it.
On our map, there's a number of land use areas available. Why did you not look at this property?
May I?
Yeah, please.
That's understood.
Yeah, this one?
Oh, this one? A couple of issues. Number one, we didn't like its proximity to the freeway. Number two, it was too small. Those two issues alone.
Okay. One of my concerns is infill before going outside of the
Yes, ma'am.
city. And another thing I would bring up is there's going to be potentially a lot of traffic in that area. There's going to be a fuel station at the Alameda. There's a proposed housing development, as you probably know, next to the RV park. So this would just be one more development. So we'd have to mitigate the traffic concerns, the road conditions. There's 3 roads that converge in that general area too, so that's another issue that's got to be mitigated.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, would you consider doing it in phases, or you would go for like all 100?
It will be done in phases.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How many and over what timeline?
Probably the first phase would be approximately 40 spaces. Second phase might be the balance, or it might be another 40. It depends on the absorption rate.
Okay. Can we open to the public?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone from the audience? Do we have any speaker cards? No.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to ask the audience if there's anyone who'd like to speak or ask questions.
Without Trish, I didn't know you guys were going to open it.
Oh, do we usually do this with informal? We need to hear what you're, yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about the project.
Well, first of all, please identify yourself
I'm
for
sorry.
the
George
record.
Steele,
Okay,
911.
thank you.
I come to listen about the project tonight, and obviously I got it. I have a ton of questions
Okay.
here. No particular order. The first thing, the flood zone, like 20 inches to the floor. You know where my building is? You know, I had the big building and a little building. Go look at the little building. That's your flood zone. Where's the 20 inches coming from? Okay. The creek that you guys were talking about, how it follows the road and the row of trees right there, that's not native. That creek used to come right across that field. That's why every time we get a good rain, the creek jumps its banks and goes right through the middle of that field. So there's 2 questions for me. Done in phases. If it's 100 or 200, who cares? It's still going to be that amount of units. We never got a target price from him. We got how many units he wanted to put in. And I don't know if it's going to be senior housing or open housing. Just
He said there was no age requirement.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Thank you. That answers that. That's kind of the beginning of it on the project itself. I miss Becky. I wouldn't have to be here right now. The rest of it is, I don't mean to, I'm just going to have to say it. Right now, the floodgates are open in San Juan, and this gentleman is a good example. Every developer that's coming in, they're getting a green light. So not that I'm against development, please don't get me wrong, but you guys aren't looking at the big picture. It's going to cost us all money when it's said and done. When these guys leave, San Juan gets a shot in the arm for a couple years, and then it affects police, fire, public works, everything. And then guess what? Us knuckleheads that are left behind, our taxes are going to go up to make up the difference in the service requirements. I'm watching a light, Trish. Water, I don't have enough time to get into the water, but you all know better than I do the water problem we have. 7 major wells in a quarter mile. You cannot ever convince me there are different aquifers. And out of those 7, 3 of them are cities. I guess what I'm getting at real quick here is, before you guys let any more stuff go on, all I'm asking is slow way down, and we've got to do a lot more homework. Perfect.
You're okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, my
Hi.
name's Jack Paquin. I'm a general contractor that worked for Bill, kind of helped him do the layout. There were a couple things that he had mentioned. I don't know if they were clarified well. And a couple comments real quick. If you notice on the right-hand side of the map, you'll see a 50-foot setback for the creek that's going there all the way, I think it's the right. I'm Italian, so I apologize. So it's like
This map?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it'd be
right here on the right side, yes.
Yeah,
All,
okay.
that sets back with a 50-foot setback.
See it there.
And what we did also is because
30 and
of
20.
the knowledge of the creek possibly overflowing, if you notice that we have a creek bed's 20 feet basically leaping from the property line coming over. Then there's a 30-foot road that's put in there that's going to have a curve. So as you do have the creek bed, which we all know when floods come, 100 year, whatever they are, as it rises up, it's going to hit that road and actually come down the road. It'll actually take it to direct it to the front part where it's supposed to be going down the natural drainage across the front. That was the tentative, again, like Mr. Coffey mentioned, till we get the surveyors in there and do the specifics. But that's the concept is when that does overflow, it's got 20 foot of it. It's got another 30 foot of road with a curb on the residential side, which will catch that water and direct it towards the front of the property and the natural drainage ditch there. Floodplains, again, they're predicated off, I'm sure you all will realize, predicated off 100-year flood, basically. So there's a factor as far as the water can rise. That's why Mr. Coffey had mentioned earlier that he's putting permanent foundations all the way around. So when we hit a 100-year floodplain, I don't care who you are in this area, we're getting flooded. These units are all being designed to be above the floodplain, which is required. and to have permanent foundations underneath them, so you're not going to have them get washed out and have buildings starting to float all over the place. Those are dealing with those two issues. My favorite part of it is I got a little Shih Tzu, right, puppy. One of the things we've got in throughout there, we got doggy parks. I don't know if you're aware of them, but there's a bunch of them. So there's little obscure corners and a few odds and ends. There's also a few little obscure lots that we have talked about doing senior citizen, low income senior citizen in. And I think it's speckled through. I think there's like about 8 of them. And it's, again, you got a conceptual sitting in front of you as far as that's concerned. And if I'm correct, and I may be wrong, right now they've got agriculture on that piece of property. And last time I worked on a subdivision down in Monterey County, went through our environmental study, actually taking it from agriculture going to domestic, we actually saved water. So I know water is an issue. It's always been an issue. It will continue to be an issue. But again, just addressing that. And is there any other technical question that I can help you
I'm
with?
just noticing that there's just one entrance and one exit for the 100 homes.
That we put one main entrance, yes. It's 60 foot wide coming in and going out.
That doesn't seem...
It's easy. We can do multiples. Our whole thing is just, we want to kind of like, if you look at that whole center section, that our concept is to go ahead and go with all, as soon as you drive in, kind of like a sitting park with benches. You continue a little farther. On the left-hand side, it would be a park for children, which is an open little soccer field play, and then, of course, with a playground area. Then all the way towards the back, you'll have the homeowners association meeting room, bingo room, and a barbecue area and stuff up there. That's what's planned there. It's pretty simple if you take a look at it to go ahead and do a couple separate entrances, and if that's something, from my understanding, the meeting tonight was to kind of get those ideas, what makes more sense or what's a little bit of feeling. So when we go back to the drawing board and start spending money on our engineers and really sitting down, we'll have a little better understanding of what the city's going to be looking for. So a couple entrances would actually be easier than the big one in the center.
I'm thinking that might be fire code, too. Wouldn't the fire department want more access areas?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They'd have to have fire hydrants inside and different accesses for emergency services, yeah.
Is this going to be a fenced-in or a walled-in area? Or is it going to be more...
Again, that can go both ways, and it depends what the city would like to see. What we'd like to see personally, we talked about is, and I think Bill mentioned it, about the views that happen. I mean, I'm from Monterey, so I look out my window and I see a house. It's kind of nice to look out the window and see some fields and see some trees and see the backdrop of the mountains and stuff. So especially that whole front's got such a beautiful buffer with the trees that are there, a little bit cleaned up a little bit and allow them to stay there to buffer that visual going down there so you're not repeating. So it could go either way. I believe Mr. Coffey's opinion is kind of like mine, is a little bit more of an open, not all fenced up, and kind of give you that look. But whatever the city, if they had a particular opinion on it, we'd...
So going along with that, the front you mentioned has the trees that exist now, and there's also, I believe, a ditch or sort of a creek right there. I don't see a setback.
If you look at those lots,
on the
if
map.
you look at the lots there, they look longer than all the others, because we've just included that. So there's actually, I think we have a 30 or a 40-foot setback along there.
Oh, it's like a very faint line, perhaps.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we made those lots a little bit longer to go ahead and facilitate that specific. I see. Again, I like fishing and hunting and outdoors and do wildlife art, so I like any little spots you can start hunting, Also, question is that, I don't think Mr. Coffey articulated it, but a gentleman brought up a question on it. I think he's got the unit's going to be, the property's going to be leased property and the units go on top. But we can't control what the people want to buy. So if they want to spend $60,000, we can control architecturally, which is a suggestion I made to him, and I think he heard me. When you go to put units in there architecturally, because they have all different standards you can go with. So if you keep an architectural element on there, you can go anywhere from $60,000 up to, $150,000 for a unit that's going in there that you want to buy to sit on there. So the prices are going to predicate on what they choose to pick and what they choose to, what the individual owners want to buy. But again, I think your numbers, if you take a look at it, they're going to be be more than considered moderate.
And who would they lease the land from?
Well, that's the little, the village at San Juan. It will be a LLC that he's put,
Okay.
from my understanding. I shouldn't be talking business, that's his job.
And there would be some kind of homeowners association, or?
You'll actually have a management group that'll run the whole thing. They'll actually take care of.
I don't
Let
like
us
to
take
take
over the-
some of the issues I haven't shared with him. There will not be a homeowner association.
Okay.
All the roads and facilities will be managed by the ownership group. And that's all provided in their lease rate. And I think the other thing was, the gentleman asked, he didn't see the price targets. I've indicated in the material I supplied to you that if we can hold our lease rate down to 500 or 5.25, and that's an indeterminate number right now because we don't know what kind of requirements we're up against. But typically, if the requirements of construction don't get too far out of line, I think that's a reasonable target. If that be the case, I've suggested in your readings a home for $100,000, which would be a home of approximately 1,500 square feet, one that you would be loved to live in, be very proud to live in. Based on today's rates, with a reasonable, say, a 10% down payment, the mortgage on that home would be in the $600, $625 a month range. So you combine those two, and I believe you probably find that's probably rental rates, comparable rental rates for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So it makes ownership quite reasonable.
Would you require these to be owner occupied?
Yes, sir.
So they can't be purchased and used as rental units?
No, sir. They're not right now, because the whole idea is to make the affordable housing for people who have no other outlet for housing. Now, if the owners wanted to change that after they purchased the home, and they would appeal to the ownership group in numbers that would represent the voice of the park, we'd be willing to consider that.
And so I guess I have a question, maybe it's for the city more, but so normally the other housing developments we've been discussing, there's a fee that they would have to pay the city to set up to build on that particular lot. And that's, my understanding, that's because the person would own that lot as well as the house. So in this case, I think normally it's like $13,000 or something.
Well, there's a utility hookup, sewer and water,
Right.
and then there are impact fees of parks, and if they put in parks, then that fee can be an in lieu fee where they've developed their own park and then they don't have to pay it.
But if their land is going to be leased and not owned by the property or by the homeowner, would it be any different? I mean, is someone still...
It's done by hookup, so if there's 103 hookups,
Yeah.
there would be
You're paying for
103 fee.
Okay.
I would imagine that's how it would have to work.
Then the LLC or LLP, whoever owns it and leases it, they would have to be paying that hookup fee.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we won't avoid the fees, that's for sure.
And generally, when you get into smaller units, particularly like on some senior citizen small units, they petition the city to reduce the impact fees because they have less impact. I don't know in this particular case, they don't have an age thing, but I think I've experienced some smaller lots, smaller manufactured homes that are catered to 62 or older. The jurisdictions have cut their fees about 2/3 of what normally it is, so that because they know that the senior citizen will have less impacts, less impacts on schools, less impacts on other services.
Go ahead.
Well, I've got a list, and it's mostly just comments and questions for the city. In general, I mean, I understand this is proposed, but it's 103 units. That means we're looking at another influx of 250 to 350 people to the city. idea of affordable housing, and I can appreciate from a marketing point of view of looking to residents of San Jose and outlying areas, but this community within the county needs affordable housing. I'll disclose, I'm a commuter, so I do live here and I do commute to the San Jose area every day. The current property looks like it is zoned as industrial. That would require a general plan modification. And I've got a little bit of a hard time doing a modification 3 months after the general plan, after 3 years of very hard work from a lot of people in this community of going through and changing this to suit the needs of a developer. Again, I have no issues with manufactured homes in general. Being the person who kind of tries to head up neighborhood watch here, policing is a concern. It was my same concern with Copperleaf. It was my same concern with Christopher Ranch when it went up. I stood at that podium and I said, where's the increase in policing? And until that starts to get addressed, I can't even start to consider new developments. Same with fire. We've got one station here. If Hollister Fire says that we need to reman that station with more people, that's going to cost the city more money. Those are all things that have to be taken into account. I would also not consider any new development until we get water completely figured out, be it new wells in place, sewers. I mean, right now we've got, from just the numbers we've been told in these meetings, we'll be at 85%, 90% without upgrades, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that leaves us 10 to 15%. This one alone, this proposal alone is 13 to 18% increase, which tells me that's approximately how much increase we're going to have there. Copperleaf adds another 100.5 people. That's 7 or 8%. And I'm not comfortable with that. Same with the water. Until we get the wells drilled, the wells done, and all that stuff together, I don't have a huge issue with the project itself. I'm not sure this project is right for the city. My personal view is I don't have an issue with manufactured home parks or mobile home parks, whatever people want to term them now. They're manufactured homes, and there's certainly a far cry. There are some absolutely beautiful manufactured homes out there that would put my relatively new home to shame. So my issue isn't with the types of homes. My issue is with, we've already got 85 homes down here going in, 27 homes that are being proposed. We've got 45 over here being asked for, and we're asked to look at, informally asked to review and give our opinions of 103. I'm not comfortable with it. The fact that these units wouldn't have garages is a huge concern for me. My home it's a two-story. It's approximately 2,000 square foot, and it's 4,200 square feet, not too far away from what is being proposed here. If I didn't have a garage, I'd have a cluttered mess sitting out in the open. If I just had a carport or whatnot, my garage is stuffed with projects and tools and camping gear and this and that and the other thing. And the fact that there's no garage means that these people that would be purchasing the home, not the land, if they have a quarter of what I have, it's still going to be a mess. And do your proposed parks allow for vehicle repair?
Some do, some don't, but addressing your issue about storage, each of these houses has a storage facility at the end of their driveway, if you will.
Like a
that
shed?
varies in size. It could be 8 foot deep, it could be 10 feet deep. And it's not for parking. is for storage and clutter, which you just mentioned.
Right. Okay, well, I mean, that helps alleviate that a little bit, but,
And the spaces, the parking, I'm sorry, didn't interrupt you, but the parking spaces are covered.
okay, I understand that as well. It's still a concern. If I had a 3-car garage myself, I'd be thrilled, but I don't. The fact that it's being proposed as owner-occupied, I think, goes to the definition of affordable housing. Once there's a possibility that the units can be purchased and rented out, affordable housing goes completely out the window. Unless there's going to be some stipulation that it has to be owner-occupied, again, that would completely negate any advantage of having affordable housing. To me, affordable housing is for people who work their buns off but might not make as much salary as others for whatever reason, whether it's due to physical limitations, whether it's just due to their skill set, whether it's due to whatever. And as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of what affordable housing is for, people who can't afford $500,000 home. Go to San Jose, it's a $900,000 home. And so that would really concern me if it became anything other than an owner-occupied. The flood zone and the creek overflow, I don't know enough about the situation, but I do see a creek on here, and I mean, I had 2 phone calls today with various people regarding concerns about the flood situation in that area. The other thing to keep in mind too, this is across the freeway. Our general plan was extremely specific about the town becoming a walkable town. And there's one informal proposal for 100 and another formal proposal for 45 units that's currently going through its process. And that's 450 to 500 people that have to use a crosswalk to get into the city. And that doesn't work in my book either. Until there's a walkover bridge or something of that sort, that we're not following the general plan as has been toiled over for the last 2.5 years. And many of us were a portion of that process of getting, of trying to come up with ideas for a walkable city. And to put 500 people on the other side, to have to come over to the other side and walk across a highway where, even though Caltrans has done their work to extend the lights, I wouldn't want to walk across that every time I need to walk across the street to get some bread, or walk over or walk over and grab a beer, or watch your kids go to school. A crossover is absolutely necessitated. I think I'm done.
Very good. Lorraine, anything to add?
I share some similar concerns about the water and the sewer, definitely. And then I really agree. I mean, I think affordable housing is really important and needed in this community. So I think I applaud that you're looking to build something that will address that issue. However, I do think the size, at least with the other projects that are going on right now, the size is a bit concerning. So either maybe starting with something smaller, or perhaps a different location. I'm not sure, but I do really like the idea. Just it sounds big for what we already have going on right now.
I'll share Commissioner Madero's comments. He said the village at San Juan Bautista is a remarkable proposal in addressing low-income housing needs for San Juan Bautista. Wow, 108 units certainly could serve low-income housing needs for over 100 years. In my opinion, not a good idea at this time, but I'm willing to hear further discussion on modifying the current proposal to our current general plan needs and public opinions. If appropriate, expect and hold for further discussion. I'm on the same page with my fellow commissioners. We've got too much going on right now. We do need affordable housing. I'd prefer to think of it as affordable housing for locals rather than Silicon Valley. We are having a new housing development. San Juan Del Webb is coming in, and we'll need housing for service workers, and farm workers need housing. Young families, entry-level housing. is needed. I don't know that our infrastructure can accommodate it at this point with so many other things going on. So I think that's where we stand. Any further comments from the public? Okay. Okay then, we'll close that item. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next items are consent items. Approving affidavit of posting agenda and approving affidavits of posting and mailing public hearing notices.
I'll move to approve both of those.
Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you for coming.
Commissioner Guerra?
Aye.
Commissioner Badaris is absent. Commissioner Grossoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Koch?
Aye.
Chairman Franco is absent. With 3 members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3002.
Okay, we have several public hearing items. A, B, and C will be continued. So the D'Ambrosia Vista tentative map in 2 phases and the design review for the D'Ambrosia will be continued to next month. And the Copperleaf subdivision project will be continued to August. As you can see, we're down 2 commissioners, plus 2 of us have to recuse ourselves from one of the items, so we just can't discuss them tonight. So we will talk about item D, consider approval for site and design review for 415 7th Street minor subdivision. Front 2 lots, lots 26, 27, elevations only, and the applicant is Alvarez. Okay?
Yeah. As you recall, your conditions of approval for the lot line adjustment and the site design review with the number of conditions of approval, mitigation measures, and monitoring programs, you withheld the architectural front elevations of the 2 lower units. It says that we would like to have that submitted to us to show what the architectural styles are. Mr. Valles has responded and has submitted that. He's in the audience and he can speak to that in terms of the architectural standards. As you recall, the 2 front lots were developed as single story, not 2-story. The 2 lots in the back are going to be split level, where it'll be a single story and then a bedroom above the garage.
And the 2 back ones will face each other?
Yes.
And the 2 in the front will face the street?
Street,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Valles, would you like to come up? Do you want to tell us about your proposals?
I tried to take into consideration what was brought out at the last few meetings. So as you can see in those elevations, I made one with gabled ends, which will be all wood siding,
Okay.
craftsman style, shingles on all of the gables, and then the one with the hip roof, which is that one, will be all smooth stucco, mission style, real San Juan-y.
Okay.
That's what I call it.
And they're 2-car garages?
Yes.
These are just, the interiors are basically mirror images of each other? Are they?
Yes.
Okay.
The insides of the houses are exactly the same, just flip-flopped.
Yep.
But the elevations, I did them different per your request.
So we've got wood siding, and then we've got shakes here?
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll have a banister and a front porch?
Yes.
And will they both have composite shingle roofing?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're thinking very seriously, I don't want to commit to it at this point, but we're thinking very seriously about putting a tile roof on the hip roof.
Okay.
Just so
I
it
wondered.
looks considerably different.
Okay.
Most likely that's what we're going to do.
That would be attractive.
Try to mix up the colors so that it doesn't look cookie cutter and exactly the same when you drive by there. So did everything we could with 1,500 square feet.
Okay. Do you have questions for him?
No, I actually really like this one. That one there is really nice design. Mission isn't my personal taste, but that one there also looks nice. Your products are always very nice, so
Well, and I
I'm
like
not too
that
worried about it.
you include the color scheme, the color pattern. Do we have any public comment?
No, I have
Okay.
no speaker cards.
I have some questions about the resolutions. Maybe you can have a seat, I think. Thank you. There, on the resolutions from February 3rd, there were 21 conditions, and now there's only 19. On 19, number 19, what's been removed is the applicant shall address the unpaid balance and cure the matter with the city prior to obtaining building permits. Has that been done?
No, to me, that it was supposed to be in here. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, right. I thought that was.
So on the old,
Has the purchase been made complete?
Yes, we closed on that, and that's a little puzzling to me, because shouldn't that have been taken care of in escrow? If there was any kind of outstanding balances with the city?
well, this was from February 3rd. That was a condition. That was on the conditions of approval.
Has Mr. Dubois took care of that? I mean, I don't see how he could be paid
Yeah.
for those properties with those liens on them.
Yeah, no, he didn't step forward to take care of it.
Well, this is not acceptable, because these were outstanding for years, and this was our time
Yeah.
to have
And you took it
compensation.
right off the conditions of approval, didn't you?
I just put all the same conditions on there that they were for February 3rd. I mean, it's
Well, they're not the same.
project.
They're not
I've
the
got my
same,
copy
yeah.
right here.
Can't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Was that
remember.
secured by a lien? Roger, was that secured by a lien?
No, the city never did file a
They
lien
never
against.
really-
No, yeah.
Well, I don't know how this can happen.
How much does he owe?
I don't know.
Is anyone?
I want to say it's $12,000.
No, that was the original one, and he paid a portion of that down. I think it was like $7,200 was the balance, the last that I.
I don't know when the last I heard in the meeting, it was somewhere in the $12,000 range. So
Yeah.
unless he's made a payment in the last 6 months, it's
No, that was the original
The
thing back in
original.
2006, 2007, and he bartered back, and then he showed that this charges that Matter's son developed was not substantial, and he appeared in front of the city council in 2008, and they reduced it down to about $7,600 or $7,200. You know.
Well, when we approved this, February 3rd, I
Yeah.
made the first motion, Eric made the second motion. We approved the resolution that number 19 was typed in by the city. In addition, the previous developer has an unpaid balance for planning department review and processing. The applicant shall address the unpaid balance and cure the matter with the city prior to obtaining building permits. So that should have been done.
Yeah. And that should be the condition.
That's what we approved.
Yeah.
And somehow it's not on today's.
I don't have as big an issue with it not being on today's because the condition. This is asking for what's the difference in this resolution other than what's missing.
The resolution of this should have been the same as the site design review for the whole thing. You just withheld the front elevations of the two. So it should have been a mere conditions and mitigation measures and monitoring. There's 3 pages to that.
And we also asked that it be
Yeah.
solar ready.
Yeah,
We
that's
asked for a
not
sound wall. And on my notes, I had maintenance district, but I don't know if we included that.
I don't remember that one specific.
Yeah, I had assumed that it was the same conditions that was approved previously. The only thing we were doing is altering the front elevations of the two lower units, and the resolution would be is to fix one as a wood and the other as a stucco.
Well, I'm not assuming anything anymore because too many things.
That's how we get 5 units built
Yeah.
as a minor subdivision.
So what do we do?
If we can add those, or I didn't bring my file in there.
Were those? I did not go as far as to pull the stuff from before. Is everything else the same? And this is my concern, because this isn't the first time that this has happened. Excuse me for a moment. We've had a couple of these, and one of them was on 7th Street, where actually it was this one as it came in. And every month when we'd get a new thing, there was always some little difference. I mean, it was pointed out by a resident that there were certain differences within this that, I mean, I would almost rather have, if this is just a modification of the original one, I would much rather have the original one there and any changes highlighted.
Yeah.
If it's being crossed out, have a line through it. And if it's being added, have it highlighted. And that way we know exactly, I mean, I don't remember I remember the huge discussions we had over this particular project. And I certainly can appreciate your patience in all this. I also don't want to hold him up necessarily. However, I would much rather see, if there's going to be a modification there, just being a line through the things that are done and a highlighted portion before. And that way we know exactly what we all agreed to on the official record, and we know now exactly what we're looking to modify.
To my knowledge, there was no change in the original on 7th Street. I don't know what project you're talking about. Anthony Nicole changed and then removed the secondary unit, and he changed.
No, I'm talking about this project when it came in, because his project was on our docket for 6 months, 5 months, a long time. And I believe it was John. Is it Ferreira? Right, last time John Ferreira brought it to our attention. If you look at last month's, it says this, and if you look at this month, it says this, and it's like, how do these change from month to month?
And if I'm not mistaken, John Ferreira was mistaken on that condition, and I pointed that out to him.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And it was the same condition, only it was rephrased.
Okay, that's fine, but I think I would prefer in the future, if we're doing modifications, there just be a simple line. It can be that can even be in a different color print or something that's just got a line through it, and then have it highlighted so that we know exactly what we agreed to and exactly what we're being asked. Otherwise, there's just too many possibilities for something being.
And I agree. Really would prepare the staff report, but I was assuming that all the conditions were the same. It was tonight we were just discussing the front elevations, and we were going to approve the resolution authorizing these 2 elevations on the lower unit.
I don't have a problem with the elevation.
That was what I was
under
the impression. Yeah.
But the fact remains, we have a resolution here.
And it's not the original.
Yeah.
How do we correct this without holding him up another month?
Can we approve the elevations and not approve the resolution?
Well, I don't know if it's possible. What if we approve the resolution with the original conditions?
Will we know that it is put in?
Refer to that resolution that has it.
Well, the resolution that has it is, I didn't write it down. It's a resolution 206-11 from February 3rd.
216.
And I added on number 16, no construction work shall be allowed on Sunday and holidays.
And
I always add
That's in
that,
there.
and it's never included.
That's in there. I saw
That
it.
is in this one, yeah.
It's in this one?
Number 16.
Actually, it isn't.
It's
Number
not.
6.
There's
Or holidays is
There's
not
no
on.
working on
Oh, it
holidays.
just says
Yeah.
Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe nobody ever does, but unless we say it, maybe someday they will. But the fact that 19 was truncated There was also something about a tree removal.
And the tree removal, yes. Remember that, yeah. You don't have.
Side question on those tree removal. How long will that permit process take, Roger? To get a permit to remove those trees?
Just you get an arborist to give us a little report, and we issue it over the counter.
Did we agree on sound wall? I had written it in.
I know the sound wall was part of this.
Yeah, and solar ready is, we're always doing solar
We're
ready.
always doing solar ready.
Yeah.
I'll go get the file. Yeah.
Do we want to take maybe a 5-minute recess? And
I thought I saw something about a sound wall.
Why don't you have a seat?
We're trying to get you out of
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that looks like what we agreed
This is
to.
exactly the same one that we did before, but we just added 20 and 21.
Yeah, and 19 is, now it's 18. 18 is complete.
And then the other one is that on 16 we are. I remember you added there Sundays and holidays on 15. The applicant shall restrict loud noises, and it says on Sundays and
Oh,
holidays.
yeah, okay. Okay, so this one must be,
Put that in there,
I bet this is, I don't know what this, maybe this is one of the original resolutions we looked at.
Are we back on? Yeah. Okay. On number 20, it says the applicant may construct a sound wall along the real property boundary. He's already said that it's absolutely in his plan.
You can go on record that I am putting that in.
Okay.
So if we change that to must.
Or shall.
Or shall.
I would just.
Shall means well.
Shall means well.
Yeah, that's what we seem to say for all these other ones.
Okay. So, we approve of your design review. And I think we're good to go with the resolution, the conditions.
So specifically the front elevation, where is that on here? Am I just missing?
Yeah.
On the conditions?
Yeah. There's one in here that says plan to be submitted.
No, it's not one.
It was.
Oh, there, number 5. This still shall submit. Oh,
Oh, no, that's not it either.
Oh, yeah, I don't see it on the back.
I think it was in the minutes of the approval.
no. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we just need to move to accept the elevation plans for these two?
So how is the city going to address the unpaid balance?
Yeah, how do we know that that's been done? 19, I mean, number 18 now.
Well, it won't be done until they apply for a building permit.
Okay.
There hasn't been any application for that yet. They just submitted their preliminary grading plan and stuff.
I need to take that up with Mr. Dubois though, because that should have been taken care of
Before.
by him. And he did say he was going to take care of that, so.
Okay.
And perhaps he has.
I believe that it was addressed in the last minutes when he got up and spoke. I know that those fees were talked about in that conversation. It might have been either the last meeting or the second to the last meeting. But either way,
condition number 1. If you want to read that, condition number 1, the last 2 sentences. You know.
Project just speak.
Yeah, right.
So the applicant said he would speak to Mr. Dubois, but is that also should the staff talk to Mr. Dubois too about the fee? Or?
Well, it's part of the condition, and I think Al's got to go and confront Mr. Dubois, you know, and that would be part of the escrow, and it should have been handled in that, you know, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So there's no problem with approving this and this. It
Right.
really comes down to when he goes for the actual building permit, either he needs to pay at that time or it has to be paid by then. He's gonna build. So I mean, it's not, I mean, as much as he may not want to, push comes to shove, my guess is he'll cover it somehow. And I mean, he's.
And for all we know, it has been. We don't know.
It has been, and checks in the mail.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I move that we, again, we're just approving the front elevations for the front 2 units?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I move that we approve the front 2 units ads given to us for the residential homes at 415 7th Street.
I second that.
Okay.
Commissioner Gebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros is absent. Commissioner Grosstoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe?
Aye.
Chairman Franklin is absent. With 3 members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3002.
And I apologize if I jumped the gun. That was an important item, and when I saw it missing, it was disconcerting for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's important that we retain the 11 because it has the mitigation measures and the monitoring programs. So that's still valid.
Okay. All right, so we did D. And now E is going to be continued also. And F, we'll consider revision of the proposed noise ordinance recommended by the city attorney.
Real quick, back to 5E.
There's no documents on that.
There's what?
No documents on that?
No, there's not. Is there anything we can preview on that?
Nothing was turned in.
Nothing was turned in.
Everything was conceptual, and I guess Mr. Moore got the actual plans from his architect or draftsperson probably last Friday. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
He had asked that we consider it, and his architect didn't give it to him in time, and so we didn't get anything. So we just says, and we already noticed it for a public hearing, and so we just say, hey, let's continue it. And he's not adverse to bringing it back into July.
Okay.
Okay, now we have the noise ordinance.
okay. So this noise ordinance, Planning Commission worked on it for quite some time to where we thought it was going to work. It was sent to the city attorney for revision, and I guess to be compiled into an actual ordinance. And she mentioned that cities are veering away from measuring decibels and enforcing the actual noise or the ordinances or regulations, and doing it by complaint basis, as in types of noises. So I did some research. I looked into the city of Salinas's, and it is true. I also looked at Hollister's earlier today. There were some decibel readings, but everything is all purely based on nuisance and complaint basis.
Okay.
And I think what the city attorney was telling us is that when you put a rigid number in there, and if the complainant, the neighbor complains, then he has to have proof, an audio meter that would record that so that he could substantiate the claim that it exceeds that level. And nobody has those, stuff. And so it's better of a complaint.
I have mine calibrated monthly.
Yeah, it's better as a complaint, and then we classify it as a nuisance.
Well, David said, proposed noise ordinance is acceptable, but I too would like to include a section devoted to a regulation based on complaints and noise that cause public nuisances, as suggested by the city attorney. So we'd have to rewrite it then, everywhere it talks about the decibels and the...
This isn't the same document that we tentatively passed anyway.
No. And when Deborah took it over, she looked at it, and there was a lot of, when your draft there was a lot of inconsistencies of enforcement, and she put it in the legal tense at the end of the ordinance, that's the enforcement and the thing. So it changed the formatting of it, and stuff, and then we tried to retain the intent of what you wanted to do, and that's why we wanted to bring it back to you to make sure that it meets your intent in all respects. And then she'll put it in the legal format so it's defensible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she'll do that.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there are some
Content. Yeah.
there are some specifics in this that has been that much like the last document we just had. Example, page 4, line item 121 to 122. This has to do with leaf blowers. Non-residential, no person shall operate leaf blowers within a non-residential. Where's the residential one in here?
The top line, 118.
Thank
Within
you.
a residential.
Within a residential between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. And I remember I kept asking about being able to maintain my lawn on Sundays, and it was finally, yeah, okay, you're right, it's okay, and it's not in here. So I'm wondering, again, how much of this, I understand that she made revisions, but how much has changed, and how much do we have to re-go through this and re-workshop?
Right, did she get the version that we corrected?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah,
questioning,
yeah. And if you want, is just put these notes down, Rudy can relay that back, and let her know that just says
Okay.
these were what the commission felt was important.
so line 122, we want to take out no person shall operate any leaf blowers on,
Line 119, 120
But
should
if they-
read Saturday and Sunday.
okay. But then,
But
we'll-
then on a non-residential area, shouldn't they be able to operate them as well on Sundays?
Yeah, I don't remember what we had a discussion, and Ernie, you might not know, Ernie has a thing about leaf blowers, so.
No, I'm just saying it sounds a little funny to say in a residential area we
But in
do allow it on
non-residential
Sundays,
area.
but in a non-residential area
I
we
think it
don't
had to
allow
do
on
with
Sundays.
the parks being used by possible guests and things like that, and just trying to leave a day that they could just be left alone.
I mean, I don't know that, yeah, someone
well,
would be working.
okay, line 122.
Yep.
It says no person shall operate any leaf blowers on Sundays and holidays. Do you want to take that line out?
I need to go back to my original notes to find out how we, because we
Oh.
went through this and we had specifically gone through it.
Yeah, because a homeowner might want to blow the leaves off his lawn on Sunday morning, you know.
Right.
And as long as, and I think when you talked about it, we just says
Within certain
after 9 o'clock.
Right.
I think that was the thing. After
We
9,
said no person
you could
shall
do it.
operate a gas leaf blower on Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I wrote down.
I have to go through my
Okay,
original
all right.
notes. I have to dig them out.
But so let's take it and continue it, and go back to your notes, and then we'll bring it back in July, and then we'll
Okay.
correct it. There is no hurry on this. It's just we want to make sure we
Right.
got it right. And,
Except for the guy on 2nd Street and 3rd jackhammering at 9:30 at night.
Yeah,
were you
I
doing?
heard that the other night.
Well, I think everybody didn't
I
like
didn't
it.
hear it.
Well, you don't live next door to
Yeah.
one, so yeah.
He was jackhammering that night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jackhammering
He
and
was trying, because he had a concrete pour early the next morning.
Oh. But he couldn't have done it. Oh, wow.
There was a backup. He promised the whole neighborhood cookies. We still haven't seen him.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're going to
Anyway.
continue that item to the next month.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
I guess
now,
one more question.
And go back through your notes and
Okay.
make sure that it meets your intent.
okay.
You know.
Okay.
Lorraine?
Yeah, so if she mentioned the, I guess the application and enforcement portions were completely taken off, how
How do we know
will
which
we
ones?
enforce them? Or how will one, I guess you just make a complaint and it becomes a nuisance complaint?
nuisance.
Well, then how
yes.
many complaints? Do we need to
Right,
write?
do we need to specify after a certain number of
Yeah,
complaints,
I
someone
think
gets
we need to
a
write something.
ticket?
Well,
or-
a complaint, and I think Deborah has to say a complaint will be filed with the city for a nuisance. You know.
Didn't she refer to our administrative process? It's also
yeah.
in the code?
Yeah.
So
We'll talk to Deborah about that and clean it up. But those are important things to note down there.
Right, so people
If somebody
know the process.
if somebody
Yeah.
makes a complaint and then another complaint, what's the hierarchy of
Yeah.
really
Right.
enforcing
Over
it?
how much
So what's
time?
the outcome or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Or
punishment?
what, yeah. Or is it done by how many times the sheriff is called, or is it done by?
Right.
And it's just like we had the tobacco ordinance, and the first arrest or infraction was $500 fine, and the second one was $750 and then $1,000.
Right,
And
so
then the
decrease.
fourth, he loses his license. Really, right? I mean, it was a progressive penalty.
Right. So it's-
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to home occupation.
Okay. And this was another one was we transferred it over to Deborah, and she formatted it, and there was some structural problems in there.
Well, we're still missing, on page 5, we're still missing E, as we were the last time. So we have D, and it goes right to F. So there's no E.
No E, huh?
And when I looked through this, I thought we had changed a couple things as well. Like on line 144, I thought we had said spiritual advisory service was acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a minor thing, but it just...
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
Spiritual advisory
Yeah.
service,
Yeah.
fortune teller.
Right, and I thought we maybe said massage was okay. I don't remember exactly, but...
I have to go through my notes again.
Yeah, but I thought we had taken a couple of these, or made changes that are not reflected here.
And then we had added a line in these, unless I'm just completely missing it, that basically said if it doesn't conform to anything in here, then it has to be brought to the planning commission.
Right.
No, I'm pretty sure I put that in there because that's how it was approved the last time.
Oh, and at one time you had a home occupation definitions,
Oh, there it is.
and that wasn't included this time. So,
I'll make sure it gets in there.
okay.
Was that part of the ordinance stuff?
No, that was just a separate
Okay.
item.
So I didn't
Okay.
include it with-
Would you guys
Okay.
like it to be included in the ordinance?
With the sign ordinance, we did include.
We put
the glossary.
definitions in there, yeah.
Might as well.
By the way, Rudy, you do have it in there. On the new E8, it just says, this is where you have to get condition of use. It says any use or occupation that does not meet the criteria set forth in subsections of this section. In other words, if for some reason it got missed here, they have to come to the planning commission.
Where was that?
The new E8, that was that, to solve all of
There
this.
is no E.
There you go.
The new E8.
Oh,
So
Okay.
F,
The old F8, the new E8.
okay.
72.
Well, I'm sorry, yeah, line 172. Because we had where we had a gentleman who came in and said, well, what if I've got a drill? What if I've got this?
Yeah,
What if
I
I
get
got that? And it was like, if we just add the simple line,
Yeah.
it just cures all that stuff.
Careful of that.
Yeah.
and then I noticed another inconsistency that I don't know if we pointed out in the previous version, but B4, which is line 63, it starts there and it says the home occupation shall not attract or generate excessive auto or foot traffic, yada, yada, yada. Basically that it should not exceed 6 patrons or customers for any calendar day. But then if you look across at B15, starting on line 98, it says a home occupation shall be limited to only 2 clients between the hours of 8 and 8. And so,
No,
is
that-
it 6 or is it
No, that would be
2?
right. They're saying throughout the day, you can't have more than 6 people that have come in and out
But then it's saying that only 2 clients can be there.
at any one time.
But it
that's
doesn't
on-
say
No,
that.
it doesn't say
Oh.
that.
That's
It
on a
says-
one barber chair and beauty shop salon. Yeah.
It says a home occupation shall be limited to only 2 clients between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. by appointment only.
So it needs to be 2 clients at a time?
Put simultaneously.
But then you're allowed 6 patrons per calendar day? Is that outside of the hours of 8 and 8?
No. The way I would read that is that if you're preparing taxes, you've got an appointment at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
You're allowed to have 6.
You've got 6 appointments with an individual person.
Okay.
It's allowing you to have up to 6. If you have one that comes in at 6 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock at night, well, then you're technically not following this. But if a husband and wife come in and they have or however, you can't have more than 2 people coming in
Okay.
at any one time.
If you read 15, it doesn't say anything about 2 people at once.
Oh, no, but what I'm...
Line 98.
No, I agree. Line 98,
So we want to add at a time?
Yeah.
I believe 2 clients at a time.
And do we want to add a time frame to
But number
4?
9 already says, starting in line 79, it already says it shall be limited to only 2 clients on the premises at any time.
Boy, oh
So-
boy, you're being very specific
She's
today.
good. She's got those young eyes.
Yeah.
They're a little contrary to each other, I find. I would find that confusing if I were applying for
So
it.
just eliminate number 15.
That would help.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I guess that would be the more simple one, wouldn't it? And put the times in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could put the times, I
You
guess,
need to add on
into number 4
on number.
Number 9 or?
or number 9, sure.
Actually, it's somewhere in here. It just needs to be
Between the hours of 8 and 8.
between the hours of 8 and 8.
Would it be okay if I just add them to both, just to specify?
Sure.
Or
You can just add. You could add a whole new line. In fact, if you just want to make 15, is that business can't be conducted.
It's only limited.
Must be conducted between 8.
8.
Yeah, between 8 and 8. That's maybe the easiest way to do it, and that way it covers everything.
Anything else?
I'll have to pull my notes on this one, and
I assume we're going to discuss this one
Next,
again?
yeah, we'll talk about it next month.
Okay.
Okay. So we've done the noise, we've done home occupation, and now we're on item H, consider recommendation by the Planning Commission to approve a site and design review for the re-roofing of the old adobe at 101 3rd Street. Applicant was Emily Renzel. At Historic Resources Board, we discussed, we saw the types of shingles she's thinking about. And
I have a little point of clarification. When the Crane Home came in to do their roof, they had to go both before the Historic and the Planning Commission. And I wasn't portion of the Planning Commission at the time, but Ernie was pretty clear that we treat those as two totally separate meetings.
okay.
So,
Like this should be moved to the next meeting?
no. So you treat the Historic Resources Board like it happened yesterday.
Okay.
And you have a whole new board. I know we're all the same people, but we're not. The applicant really needs to present their case to the Planning Commission. As a planning commissioner, I don't really know what she's proposing, and it would be, I know it's very much a technicality. She really should be here to show the Planning Commission the shingles, the change from redwood to cedar. That should be something that she should be addressing to the Planning Commission as well. And that follows exactly what was asked of the applicants when they wanted to re-roof the Crane Home, is that they were, Ernie asked them.
Isn't that redundant? Because
Yeah.
the HRB is the same members as the Planning Commission.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
right.
Ernie's
If it
point,
was a different group, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Ernie's point at the time, and I mean, you guys can obviously overrule me on this, but Ernie's point at the time was that they are, even though they consist of the same people, they are completely different boards. The Historic Resources Board is making the recommendation that this is good. Now it's up to the Planning Commission to look at that and take all that information into place. I mean, I understand it's a technicality, I understand it's somewhat redundant, but that's what has, to be consistent, that's what was done for the Crane Home. And it was I remember at the time, Ernie was very specific. I know you have to go through this all again, and it seems silly, but you need to tell us which ones and why you want to go that route and this and that and the other thing.
But if 3 out of the 5 voted for it and 2 dissented and recommended it, and those same 3 are going to recommend it at the Planning Commission, and irrespective of the 2 that dissented against it, it's still going to be adopted.
Okay.
Right?
Right. I mean, I'll just give my opinion. I mean, I understand that they're technically 2 different boards, but we are all the same people. I think asking someone to come again, I mean, this is where I think policy or like common sense maybe.
Okay.
Just because,
I agree.
I mean,
I'm-
I think
I know, you're just
I'm trying to follow the process and how it was done
And I
before.
understand where Ernie came from. He likes to have the applicants here to make the presentation. And a lot of times when the applicant didn't show up, he says, they're not speaking
yeah.
for it, let's continue it. And I agree with that the applicant should come forward and speak to you and show
Yeah,
their...
I can't pretend that she didn't show us the
Right.
examples.
I don't, I'm just bringing it up.
No,
If you guys are comfortable with it, I'm fine. I'm just trying to make sure we follow, that there's a procedure, and if that's,
Yeah, right, yeah.
okay.
But also, as a Historical Resources Board, if we recommend it to the Planning Commission, wouldn't we be able to explain to the Planning Commission why we're recommending it?
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't we say like, well, she showed us the shingles, we thought it was good.
Right.
It fits our design review.
The technicality would be is that, and again, this is all policy, and we could sit here forever and go around in circles. But if the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council, the City Council is going to sit there and discuss it
Yeah.
because
But
they're different people.
different
and I
people,
understand we're the
different
same
nights,
people,
yeah.
right?
That's why we have
But
meetings at
I think
council.
Ernie had a valid point, because I remember many times, if nobody comes forward
Right,
and you say,
that I
oh,
could
we'll
see.
approve it, you really don't know, and the applicant or his representative should step forward and
Oh,
make the
I
presentation.
agree in that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
It's a technicality.
Yeah.
We've heard it tonight. I suppose it would be different if they, for some reason, they had to send it back and then they didn't show up the second
Yeah.
time.
Well,
so.
that's why I thought I gave a little preamble saying that we talked about it at Historic Resources Board. She showed us we approved it.
Okay.
Just for the benefit of an audience who may not have been viewing from the beginning or
Okay.
Right.
so. Would one of you like to make a motion? Probably not, Eric.
I can.
I'll make the motion.
Now,
I'll
let's
make-
see. Well, what resolution number is it? Because this is the second one.
Number 24. First one was 23, and this one,
24, yeah.
Albina, this was 23.
Okay. I move to approve this resolution 2016-24, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving site and design review for the re-roofing of the old adobe at 101 3rd Street.
Hold that thought. Do we want to include the whereas about following the California Historic Building Code?
Yeah, you should, and because I like the word following the state guidelines for the restoration of the historical code.
Yeah. So let's add that
Into the whereas.
into the whereases to utilize the California Historic Building Code so as to retain the historic integrity of the building.
Yeah, that's important, because then it gives it the flexibility.
Right.
And we need to remember the historic building code because it certainly comes into play in this old town. Okay, then, do you want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros? Absent. Commissioner Gretastoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe?
Aye.
Chairman Franco is absent. With 3 members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3002.
Okay. Now, we're moving on to discussion items. Review existing fencing regulations in the municipal code and design guidelines.
And I just kind of filled out a thing there where I put in there the existing code in the back, Article 5, that shows there. Then there's, of course, the design guidelines that articulates different types of fencing in the design guidelines. And it really comes down to the masonry wall that Mr. Lopez puts along the front there, and it was dissident to what was in front of Eric's houses, and then you go around in the Creek Bridge and there's no fences in there. So I talked to him and everything. He's getting ready to submit a plan for the lot there, and then he's going to tear down a portion of it because the garage,
sure.
The driveway's got to go into it and stuff like that. So.
Well, and this was, I know that was kind of the catalyst for
Yeah, right.
for reviewing this. And I've had some discussions with and I think, I've seen an awful lot of fences go up that are within code. My concern, and that one specific, is I think we need to make a definition between a fence and a wall. Yep. Especially when it comes to front fences, because it's what's seen from the street. And I mean, the most simple way to add something is simply have. It sounds like we've got enough, and the regulations are well enough written that side fences at, what is it, 6 foot plus a 1 foot lattice or something of that sort. Is that what it is? Is it 6 foot?
6 foot is high, and then you can have a 2 foot boot if there is an attractive nuisance or cause for privacy. Yeah.
So I don't have a huge issue with that. My issue is more with from the home forward, and how that looks. And the idea to put something in that a fence which is either constructed of wood or materials to mimic wood, so if you have like a vinyl fencing of some sort with an air gap of 25%, follows a regulation. If there's from 25% to a solid, then it has to come before review. Again, I've seen 2, 3, 4 picket fences go up over the last year or so. One of them is out of compliance because it's 47 inches tall, and that's not even the masonry one, it's the wood fence. But you know, the fence, just because it blocks and now you're starting to take away the charm of the city, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I think we need to be extremely clear on the post heights. I don't have a problem with there being a fence and at every 6 to 10 feet there being a post that comes up a little bit. 4x4, 4x4, not a big deal. You're still going to see around it. My concern is, as the example was, the fence on 3rd Street, the wall on 3rd Street is, they sit 46 inches above, and they're 16 inches wide. And that starts becoming a big visual presence as well. Yeah. To be very clear too, I live next door to the fence, so I obviously have certain feelings about it, that particular fence. But this is more in general. I mean, that fence aside, it's built, I can't do anything about it.
Well, the other thing too is, people can put up fences without a permit.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it depends if they're going to go within the encroachment or the city's property, then they need the encroachment permit. But as far as an actual permit to build it, no, they don't need one.
If the height conforms to
But
it.
how do they know? That's the thing.
The height?
Yeah. Do they come and talk to you? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They come in,
All
yeah.
right. If they know to do that.
And then we find some people that want to put a hedge along the front fence, and up 3 feet high,
There's just so much. I don't even know where to start. But I think a good start would be differentiating between a wall and a fence. And I'm not sure that material. If you want to include materials, if it's done in masonry, that has to come in any sort of aggregate masonry,
Not
concrete.
with no airflow.
Right. That has to come before review. And fences with a gap of 25% or more, as long as it follows the guidelines.
You're only talking about fences in the front.
Fences in the front, correct. Specifically fences in the front. I'm not talking about side fences.
Side and rear fences are generally solid, good neighbored fence, board and bats,
Right. Except where the guy had the jackhammer out. He's finally going to put in his fence.
All right.
So I don't know where to go with that, but I think it would be important to kind of.
The D'Ambrosio subdivision, we put that they had to have an architectural fence along the sewer treatment plant all the way up.
Oh, yeah.
And it had to articulate in an offset where I didn't want just a straight fence.
Yeah.
So every 20 feet or 18 feet, there's a little jog, and so it undulates up there, and it gives it a little bit of presence.
Yep.
And that was the way we conditioned it.
How do you define an architectural fence?
It could be, the columns could be a different material than the face,
it is masonry.
Yeah, masonry,
Yeah.
and it could be a stuccoed one. In fact, on the sound wall along the 156, on the inside there, what we do is about every 20 or 30 bays, we offset it and then put an arch in there and then offset it in 3.5 inches, and then we put a wood door in there. See that? So it gives it that presence rather than just a straight wall.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the one at D'Ambrosio, that's not a sound wall, it's a smell wall. Is that-
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not gonna, no.
Not going to work.
Nope.
Okay, the Abbey Park Covered Bus Stop Improvement Project.
yeah, we received a grant from the COG to enclose a portion of it, and I didn't want to close all 4 sides, but just the windward side along the ball field and then on the west side, and that'll be some vertical columns and then some window panes in there, and it'll be glass with a fiberglass interior so that it's resistant to the impact, because I don't want them to be breaking it. And then we'll have some benches in there and curb and gutter ramps and stuff like that. So it'll be a place where the kids can congregate and wait for the bus and be out of the elements.
That had gone out to bid already, right?
It's out to bid now, yeah.
Still?
We haven't received anything, but the bids will be received June the 16th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want to take a look at the plans, if they're in my office, right. I think we showed it to you before.
Yeah.
The structure is the same, just on the back side we put some redwood 4x4s, and then it'll be the glass paints, and then the redwood is about 6 inches off the ground so that the wind can blow the leaves out. Otherwise, trash builds up inside there. And then there'll be some benches on the inside.
Good. That'll be nice. A lot of kids use that area.
Yeah, I see it early in the morning, particularly in the winter, and the kids are there and they're all huddled together, and so it'll give it a little bit of relief.
Okay, new water wells.
And you approved a resolution about 4 months ago with a negative declaration, and now we're going for the acquisition and the development of it, and we submitted some of the drawings to the state to get their approval, and so we'll be shortly drilling for a new well there. Our water system is right now we have well number 1 up in the canyon, and then well number 2. And well number 2 has adequate capacity. Unfortunately, it only has a 36-foot sanitary seal, and it's very susceptible to any type of organic materials going in there. And that's where we developed the nitrates when we had that 1.5 years, 2 years ago. The new well here, normally we'll drill it down 500 feet and then put a 200 or 225 sanitary seal, and that will pretty much eliminate any intrusions of organic and phosphates and fertilizers and stuff.
Is that literally just like a concrete cap with a pipe through it?
Yeah, I mean, after the column is drilled down, then they'll throw a balloon down there, and then they'll put concrete all the way down to the balloon, and it'll be a seal.
Got it.
Now, well number 5 will be a replacement for well number 2. So when we get well number 4, we'll have 1, 2, and 4. So we'll have 3 wells. But well number 5 will be another well that will replace well number 2, because then we'll demolish it and get rid of it, and stuff because it doesn't meet state standards on the sanitary seal. And it'll be in the same aquifer, and we anticipate we're going to be drilling a test well there shortly, and it'll have the same yield because it'll be in the same aquifer.
So how many wells will we have on the same aquifer?
1, 2, and then this one will be a different one and a different one. So well 1 is a different aquifer, well 4 will be a different aquifer, and 5 will be the same as 2, but we'll remove it. Yeah. Now you brought an interesting point because I've been advocating down the line when we get ready to drill the next well, we want to go out on the north end of the city.
Okay.
And get into a different aquifer and service that. Yeah.
George Diaz, who spoke, he was a former city councilman.
Oh, okay.
And he has property out that way.
Got it. Is my understanding we received a letter from the state regarding our wells?
Well, we've received a letter from them a couple of years ago putting us on a compliance order to get a well going because they know that we're susceptible. We only have 2 wells, and if anyone went down, we would not be able to meet peak demands, and stuff like that. So we're under that compliance. We submitted a response to them and showed how we're going to bring 2 more wells on, and in the development, the Rancho Vista, they're paying $2,000 extra, not as impact fees, and that's going to generate $172,000, and that'll be for constructing a new well, and we're conditioning Creek Bridge, or not Creek Bridge, but the other one, Eden Bridge, not Creek Eden Bridge. We'll probably condition it the same way, and they are also giving us a well site, Tentatively, we talked about it, and when it comes up in front of you, they're going to offer a well site for us. And they
Eden Bridge, where is that?
Copperleaf.
Copperleaf, okay. Well, whoa, okay. That's just, okay.
So we're pushing the development to pay for our new wells as we go forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll move on to fuel station, convenience store, and quick serve restaurant.
Yes, the fuel station, it was appealed by the Accord Group, and it is about almost 2 years ago now, and it has matriculated through the court system. Judge Sanders has found all of their concerns have been dismissed, with the exception of one item, and that was the noise. And the noise couldn't be addressed by the way the noise study was done. So the developer, Mr. Dadwell, had another consultant do it, and he prepared a report and submitted it to us. We reviewed it and stuff like that, and now what we're doing is we're incorporating it into the environmental document, and now we're going to, instead of bringing it back just for approval, we're going to go out and recirculate it to the state clearinghouse for another 30 days. When it comes back, then we'll hold a public hearing, they'll approve it, and then it'll be submitted back to the judge, and then have him consider it. Because we want to be transparent there so that we don't get the Accord Group uprised to where they'll file another suit against us.
So,
And then once that is cleared to the judge, then there's be a stipulation and mitigation, and there's new mitigation measures that's going to be incorporated because the new sound studies broaden the mitigation measures to really be specific about the noise and stuff like that. Now, one of the other subtleties of the whole approach, and we couldn't bring it up in the old noise study, is the fact is that when you develop the new general plan, all of the homes across the street on the Alameda was zoned residential. And several of the people asked me, could they have their zone changed to mixed use? where they want to be able to have residential, but then they can have businesses there. And so when we looked at the land use, that was changed in the general plan. So all the homes from the Wilcox house is still commercial. All the homes from Lang Street clear down to Elaine Reyna are zoned mixed use. Now that goes to the fact is that the decibel level of a residential house is at 68, but at a mixed use, it goes to 78. So, and we were right at that threshold. We were within 2 decibels of not meeting that, and so it was academical. But the judge couldn't resolve the old noise study to mitigate that because that was done after the fact when the project was done. So he says, redo your noise study. It's a very technical issue. So it's proceeding, and we probably won't see it back until probably September, October.
Okay. Okay, we have one person in the audience that I think is here for the next item. Maybe the Loiza property.
Let's see, the Locasa property.
How do you pronounce that?
Locasa.
Are you with that one? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I don't know.
Yeah, you recall they own 15 acres there, and then we changed the general plan and rezoned 11.7 acres right along the frontage there and everything, and they are going to build a fence around their things there. It's kind of creating a little problem because behind Dave Medeiros' and behind Al Ribeiro's, they've used their land to get out to the highway, and so it's creating a conflict. And they come to me and says, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" I says, "No, that's a personal matter between 2 property owners, and you got to resolve it." I says, "Don't involve government in between there." Now, if you used it for a number of years, openly and non-notoriously, and have never been denied, you've got a prescriptive right. But you got to explore that with the things, and so they'll resolve it and stuff like that. Because the back portion is going to be agriculture anyway.
I'm confused about this item and, well, what you just mentioned about we rezoned, so we rezoned the properties on the Alameda. Did we do that, or who did that?
No, you did it in the general plan.
So
and I haven't rezoned them yet. The general plan has designated it, and they've designated a lot of things. Now it's up to the staff to bring it to the condition that our zoning has to conform to the general plan, and we will be bringing you rezonings to conform to the general plan.
So this Loiza property was rezoned, but what prompted that?
No, they didn't rezone the property. The general plan was changed.
But by whose authority? I mean, whose idea was that?
They petitioned it in there. So the general
part of the old general plan.
No.
Oh,
the old general plan was changed in '98.
Right.
The new general plan reflected that 11-acre strip, about 300 feet wide, all the way out there.
Is this the one where the fault line takes over like half the property or something?
The fault line cuts right through it. Yeah.
It's effectively, I don't want to say useless. It's useless for building, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, they had wanted to put something there, but where's this fence going?
The fence line goes all the way back to the creek that borders your dad's place, and then we're there, and that fence is going to go all the way back to that creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they at one time wanted to put a fence on the highway, a 12-foot.
No. This is a fence in the back, agriculture, that goes all the way back to along the creek there, that San Juan Creek. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something they're
what
going
it
to
does is it blocks Dave and Al Ribeiro from accessing and getting their equipment and out there. And so I just work it out. Yeah.
Those prescriptive rights can be tricky.
Oh yeah, they're technical. Yeah. But it'll work out all right. And I just wanted to bring your attention to that,
Okay.
stuff like that.
So when will
But
this
that's an
roundabout-
interesting point, is that when we changed the general plan, those are land use policies that we did, but the zoning has not been changed. It's still R1 until you rezone it. And the state law says is that the zoning ordinance has to comply to the general plan. Now, we don't have a mandate. We can do it as we, in our leisure, but it's something that's, and I've started to prepare the documents, but it's technical and we have to identify. Rudy just got the new general plan identified, and we're identifying all the properties that we have to rezone to bring them up.
Huh.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And particularly like, and just to give you an example, 4th Street and the property on the west side, towards the Highway 25, those were all zoned, multiple zones.
High density.
High density, R3. Behind it on the next street, on 5th Street, the new general plan calls for R2, where you could have secondary units. And then it goes R1 and stuff. So that'll be coming to you as a rezoning.
So when the general plan changed these things, was it the Cal Poly students who decided to do that, or was it?
The Cal Poly proposed it. It went through several
okay.
things, Mhm. Yeah.
So a lot of things happened without our.
Well, a lot of things weren't pointed out where the changes were.
Yeah.
Yeah, the changes. Yeah, right.
Again.
We tried to identify the big pictures and stuff like that, but there was a lot of little innuendos that probably didn't get articulated properly.
Right. And now we're either stuck following it or doing a general plan change.
Or changing the general plan.
Have it really, as I said earlier, it's tough to sit in a 4-month-old policy that's supposed to last 20 years.
already.
Change it.
Yeah.
Well, you can make how many changes in a year?
4.
4, but do you pay? the city?
Well, if an applicant wants to change the general plan, then they have
they
to
pay.
put up the money to change it and stuff like that. The city and the planning commission, if you feel that there is improper land use thing, then you can institute to change the general plan.
Okay. All right.
Sounds
move
like
on.
we need to whip out that map.
Huh?
Sounds like we need to whip out that map.
Yeah.
And Rudy's, I've been working with the county, and I got the map prepared and everything, and then we'll be presenting it and have it in big blow-ups on the wall and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Wastewater treatment plant and sludge removal.
Yeah, and I think Eric is, and Ben is probably very aware of it, is that you can get a little whiff every once in a while. Today I was over there and I could smell it and everything, and we're gearing up to start removing some of the sludge. There's 2 or 3 options we have, and it's going to cause a little bit of odor, but we're trying to pick the days when we
Plan our
don't have.
vacations.
Yeah. If you could just let me know when that's happening, that'd be great.
We're trying to develop a schedule where when we remove it, where we won't have, it'll be early in the morning where there's no wind, and then get it and then remove it out.
Is that so? It'll be more efficient.
More efficient, yes.
It'll reduce the odor. Is it going to increase capacity?
And no, the efficiency, the capacity, we've already started on that. We're invested in some bigger pumps, and we've a recycling and filtering system. And the big items is that ultimately the aerators in the pond 2 up above by the cemetery will increase those from 5 to probably 10 or 25 horsepower, and that'll increase the capacity as we go forward for better treatment and stuff like that. But it's an ongoing process.
Now, I know at one of the budget meetings, it was there was an idea of pumping our wastewater to the Hollister facility.
I know whose idea that is.
Well, I mean, I've heard it from Chris, I've heard it from John Freeman, I've heard it from several, which I actually think is not a bad idea. I mean, I know it's more of a long-term plan. They've got an abundance of capacity over there.
Yeah.
And that would effectively get rid of this system?
It would get rid of this plant here.
Yeah.
Then you could turn it into a park, or something. No, I mean, it could be
Very fertile.
retrofitted,
Sure.
filled in and
Organic
stuff like
gardening.
that.
Organic gardening.
But it's 5.2 miles from as the crow flies. And if you had to go down San Justo and then flip over to Olympia or something like that, it's going to add a little bit of more distance and
That's
stuff.
a big project.
And it's a tough sell. I've drove it. I've calculated the flow. And the other thing is that Morgan Hill uses all their sewage to the Gilroy, but they're higher in elevation than gravity feeds.
Yeah.
Here we're lower in elevation than the treatment plant in Hollister. So if we pump, we're going to pump against the head, and it's got to be a force main.
Yeah.
And so those are the technical issues, but I've run the figures on it, and it's about a $1.8 to $2 million project. Now, if I can get a grant for it,
Sure.
EPA, it would do well
'Cause
with it.
it was kind of my understanding that their plant may actually benefit
Yes.
by having.
And that's where the conversation started. Is Bill Rivera in the intergovernmental committee meetings and stuff just says, "Hey, why don't you ship your sewage out to us? We'd love to have it because it's revenue to them, and they have the capacity." But now the question is, who's going to pay for it?
Right. So we are literally up the creek without the paddle.
Probably better said than not.
Damn near.
But when I did the first treatment plant in Hollister, I got an EPA grant that paid 87.5%.
Wow.
And the city just had to pay 12.5%.
Wow.
So
12.5% of $2 million is pretty good deal.
Yeah. So we'll explore things like that.
Yeah.
And if it's still around, it could be feasible.
Got it.
Okay, 3rd Street painting.
Let's see, 3rd Street painting. You've probably seen the crosswalks that put in. Emily was ready to hang me in effigy and everything, but we did it right before the rib cook-off because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any conflicts there, and stuff like that. But it's a safety thing, and I feel that it brings out the presence where the kids walking across there and stuff like that. I know it's a change, and a lot of people feel that it should go back to the old single stripes across and everything.
I noticed people seem to stop their cars more.
Yeah.
Which isn't it's not a stop sign, but it's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Jolene had come in to me, and they gave us $4,000, and they've been talking about putting raised crosswalks. And raised crosswalks will go up about 2.5 inches. Might have a brick border on it, and then the crosswalk in between it, and stuff, so that it creates where the cars have to slow down to go over it. And it's more of a traffic control as well as an architectural and safety feature. And I'm going to draw up some things, and then I'll bring it to the commission and show you how it's working. We might even try one maybe down on 4th Street between Vertigo and that corner piece where something like that.
Yeah.
So, because I notice a lot of cars, they come off the Alameda and then they swing in there.
4th Street is
and
very
going by
fast.
even Vertigo, they're tooling up pretty good.
Yeah.
And we want to see if we can slow that down.
Good.
And the other aspect is the next one is the stop sign. The council has given me directions. They'd like to move the stoplight from Pierce up to Franklin Street.
Stop sign?
It's the stop sign.
Okay.
It's hard to come out on Franklin Street and see the cars coming, and they felt that it would be better is to move the stop sign up there. It would give a little bit better. The other thing that they would want is they told me to look into it, and I'm pitching this to create Franklin Street from Emily's going to 4th Street,
Oh, that
one way, going that direction. And it is narrow, and
Yeah.
cars along Jim West and Emily park there, and you go in there, and then with Trenny and his stuff, and if 2 cars there, it's really tough. And so we've been thinking and doing the analysis of a one-way street that'll go there. You know?
That's an idea. I noticed today that the school crosswalk is at Pierce. I mean, that crosswalk,
Yeah,
and it's
right.
got the sign for the children to cross there, so
Yeah,
you'll move
right.
that?
Yeah,
as
move
well.
that, yeah.
Okay.
And when we get down to Pierce, all those crosswalks have to be yellow versus the white.
Oh,
Yeah, from the state standards around schools.
okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Then we've covered all of our discussion items. Comments, reports from planning commissioners?
I just have a question maybe for next time, because I know we can't bring up items that are not on the agenda, but maybe next time could we get an update on the Harvey's lockup? You had mentioned, I think 2 meetings ago, that there was going to be a sidewalk that would go in the back.
Yeah. And I have the details. I showed him the plans. He's agreeable to it. It's just I've been so busy with getting this budget and stuff like that.
But yeah, maybe just next meeting
Yeah,
you could
right.
just tell us.
And I'll bring it
what's
at the
going
next
on.
meeting, show you the roll curb that we created that'll, instead of a vertical face, because of all the driveways,
Right.
and then the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know.
And then also, I'd be curious to know what's going on with the brewery again, because I know we talked about, there's a couple interested people, I guess, in purchasing.
We have a lot of interest to it, and
Not a lot of action.
several people want to buy it.
Great.
And so and I'm excited about that, but we have to get together with the attorney to see how the offers can be made
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
Great.
The court stipulated that the property had to be sold and the proceeds have to be split between the husband and wife.
Okay. But yeah, maybe in July, if you have any other information,
yeah.
you could fill us in.
And as you see, I fenced it off just to
Yeah, keep people out of there.
Keep out of it,
Yep.
everything out of it. Yeah.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Grand idea.
One of the things that I'm still stressed with is that the weeds are there and nobody's going to cut them. I can't get the owner to cut them, so I'll probably get the crew to go in there and get those weeds down.
Somebody offers me a weed whacker, I'll go in there and help you out.
Yeah.
But not
I
on
will
Sunday.
volunteer but not on Sunday. Can't do it on a Sunday. I'm really sorry, or a holiday. Just can't do it.
Non-residential.
Well, it's
Yeah.
non-residential, so we can't do it.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Gredesov?
I do. I was really expecting more of a crowd, and I'm hoping people are watching this recording. Over the last week, there have been, yet again, another huge round of Facebook comments and people making wild accusation, and some of them being absolutely libelous. I would highly encourage everybody, if you have a problem or you have a concern about something, to show up to the meetings. Facebook has its place. There's an awful lot of misinformation going on that social media site. There are certainly certain people who are attempting to stir the pot, and I don't have any problem with there being good debate on things, but I highly encourage everybody to show up to this meeting. I would love the camera just to pan out to the crowd. There's no one here.
I mean, in theory, could they also write a comment?
They can write,
If you would like.
if you can't make the meeting,
Right, they can send us
write a letter.
You could write a letter, you could send an email.
You can send an email, send a carrier pigeon. But in all seriousness, there were several comments made in that were borderline libelous and making accusations about this planning commission and about city council members. And I would caution those making those remarks that they are on a borderline of making libelous remarks.
And you don't know how many times I, as well as Rudy, have always encouraged, if you have concerns, come down and we'll show you what we're doing and what they're, and to try to show them that it's not black and white, but there's a lot of complications of decisions that you guys have to make.
It irritates me the amount of, I'll say it, pissing and whining and moaning, and nobody shows up to the freaking meetings. Come to the meetings. If you have an issue or you have a concern, come to the meetings. Social media does nothing to solve the problems. Show up to the meetings. If you think we're doing a good job, great. Most people on that site right now think the city government is so upside down and backwards and pulling off criminal actions that I don't know why we're all not just in jail.
I don't know. Or rich.
Or rich, yes. No, I'm rich and
Really?
yes.
Yeah.
Show up to the meetings.
I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I don't.
If you have an issue or a
we're in the
problem,
pockets.
show up to the meetings, or better yet, write us an email. Write the city an email. Write a letter. Get your point made to the people who can make those changes. It's frustrating. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Well, my comment is kind of petty now, but walking as I do in the mornings, after the rib cook-off, it's a mess. I mean, last time they had an event, I think they cleaned up, but this time it's still messy.
It was a mess, yeah, and we got in and cleaned it up, and we're billing Jason.
You're billing them, okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, on Monday mornings I get there early, and some of
Yeah.
it was, you could smell it,
Yeah.
just reeking.
Terrible.
Terrible, you know.
Okay, that's all for me.
Can I make one more quick comment?
Well, okay.
Oh, no, this is a good one. Car show in San Juan Bautista, June 25th, starts at 8 a.m. in the morning. Come on down and see some cool cars. We've got our Camaro Club. I think we've got like 20 cars that have said they're coming.
Oh, good.
We're going to try to get them all in the same block. But I know there's a lot of older hot rods. We're obviously going to be a lot of newer Camaros sitting there. I encourage you guys to come down. Take a look, take a peek, check out some cool cars, talk to some very nice people.
That's
car
the one
people.
Frank is putting on?
This is the Las Padrinas.
Las Padrinas, yeah.
Yes.
Frank, yeah.
I'll tell you, if you've never been to a car show, and even if you're not a car person, come down and just meet some very nice people. Some of these people that will sit there and absolutely amaze you with just talking with them, not even about their car. So come on down, take a peek.
Good. All right. City Manager, do you have any comments?
Let's see. No, I don't. Rudy?
Nope. Do you have a strategic
We
planning?
are got a budget hearing on the 16th. I'm going through and we've approved most all of the departments with the exception of police and fire, and the 16th is reserved for both the police and fire. Yeah. We've contacted first alarm and then first level, and so we're looking at two firms that are giving us proposal for.
Are they going to be there, or is
private
it just
patrol? I've invited them to make a presentation.
Okay, and that's 16th, 6 o'clock here.
16th, yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Strategic planning?
Yes, I've got. Let's see. We did in some of the discussion. I know the Travel Channel was here for the Hotel Impossible. We have any idea when that may or may not air?
Oh, yeah. The new owner, which is Mary's daughter, she said that it's going to come on mid to late June.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be looking. This is actually pretty big for San Juan, not just the hotel. And I hope the hotel does very, very well with their new ownership. But for San Juan, this is a big deal. So, if you can think to tell your friends and your family, and maybe I'll post it on Facebook.
The Posada. Sorry about that. The Posada. Yeah. Another thing to add to that, Mary, the new owner, she mentioned that they're also interested in opening the restaurant.
Yeah.
So, and they're interested in bringing the steakhouse, and I think they have everything in line right now. So I know that they're going through the health department right now, getting everything set up.
Wow.
So they're
That's
really on the move right now. So.
Yeah,
good things are coming.
Yeah, no, that's great.
really what we
That
need.
is really, really outstanding. I know that we discussed that there is the joint use agreement for the use of the facilities over at the school. Just the basketball courts or the
The basketball courts.
just the basketball courts? Okay.
And the board kind of relaxed the access a little bit, so
Okay.
it's kind of working out.
Okay. Good. I know we also discussed having an emergency response plan and updating that. I think Shauna has someone who can help us get that.
Not the CERT? No. A citywide?
A citywide
Yeah.
emergency response plan.
We're working on an emergency plan, and we have an old one, and we're updating it, you know.
You mean what the council passed at the last meeting?
No,
And
no,
then
no.
we'll work-
No, that was hazardous.
Okay.
That's hazardous. This is an emergency thing, earthquakes,
Okay.
you know, fires, floods.
We have
And let's see, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Roger. Oh, okay. We also discussed we're still trying to figure out how to put together a volunteer program as soon as we can find a volunteer to help run the volunteer plan. We did discuss the Copperleaf project and how it relates to the general plan. We had also discussed the fact that City Council is doing budgets. We spoke a bit about impact fees and the possibility of raising impact fees. And there were some comments and questions about adding policing and security, more policing and security to the city. Did I miss anything?
I can't even remember.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because the strategic plan happens the week after this, and it waits 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm terrible at taking notes, so.
Well, you covered the gist of it.
I tried.
Okay, well, then we will adjourn this meeting as of right now.